Hello guys, and Merry Christmas to all who celebrate. Christmas is not about food. It's about our faith, it's about kindness and many other important things in our life. But food is an important component of the celebration. And what happens to cafes, restaurants and food market inside Russia is one of the best demonstrations of a rapid decline of the Russian economy and the standards of living. Russians love to drink, Russians love to eat. And the fact that a lot of cafes, restaurants, food courts, sushi bars, pizzerias keep closing like crazy during this month is a proof they have tremendous problems inside the economy that now result in more and more businesses closing and thus invest in more and more problems for the Russian economy. Even in Moscow, during these months, more than 5% of different restaurants and cafes closed, and Moscow is the richest city in the Russian Federation. And what are the reasons? First of all, the rising costs, and second, and I love this phrase because it tells a lot, cautious consumer spending. Of course, because Russians keep withdrawing their money from banks, understanding soon they will lose everything. So let's discuss what is happening as the Russian restaurants and cafes keep closing. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat and demilitarization of the Russian Federation, which is the only working peace plan, subscribe and share these videos to spread the truth and to spread the good news. Because unfortunately, lots of global media are still Moscow-centered and only discuss what the Kremlin goblin said, what Lavrov meant, when in reality the miracle is made by the Ukrainian armed forces, by those people who support us, and here, yes, I mean our community, and of course by the Russian economic mismanagement and constant failures. So today, during this Christmas evening, we will concentrate on the problems with the restaurants, cafes, and food services. So according to the official Russian statistics, and you can always multiply it by 2 or maybe 5 or sometimes 10. So I mean, this is the best of the worst they could demonstrate to the public. So officially, they have serious problems in all food market spheres, but it's extremely vivid in the spheres of sushi bars. I don't know if they are popular in your country. They are in Russia, and I have to confess they are in Ukraine. We have really good restaurants of the Ukrainian food, but pizzerias and sushi bars are perhaps among the most popular ones. So sushi bars in Russia, minus 7.5%, and that's a lot during just months. Then the second in losses, pizzerias, which is 6.4%, and then cafes 2.8%. We are talking about months during which we observe, first of all, constantly rising prices inside Russia. That's because of their international isolation, because of the sanctions. And here I pray that the United States do not lift these sanctions while Putin keeps attacking Ukrainian kindergarten. That would be a great betrayal and actually a sin. Also, we're talking about gasoline crisis inside Russia. And you know that they have to buy petrol now from other countries, which seemed totally impossible at the beginning of the full-scale invasion when Putin promised blitzkrieg. But what we observe right now, they need to buy oil product because they need to sell it somewhere and they cannot refine it on the territory of Russia. And all of this leads to constantly rising prices and rising prices of products. The products are extremely expensive, and lots of apolitical Russians keep whining that they have serious problems. They cannot afford buying things they previously could, but somehow they still cannot connect, exhausting war in Ukraine and now war in the dozens of Russian regions with these higher prices. Well, we will see what happens in the next year. And of course, this petrol influences the prices of goods, rent becomes extremely expensive, and here we come to another very problematic aspect of the modern Russian life. That is cautious consumer spending. I'd say more and more Russians describe themselves as poor. More and more Russians have problems with the salaries. Their businesses will be closed in 2026 after Putin increases VAT to 22 and actually lowers the threshold to those who need to pay it. Previously, it was like 50 or 60 million rubles, and now it just stands. So there are tons of videos where ordinary small business, middle business, people in Russia complain they won't be able to keep their companies alive. And that's why they also read about stagflation, about the falling value of ruble. They clearly see the signals and they listen to open comments from the Central Bank of the Russian Federation, Minister of Finances, who now openly say they do have problems. They do have empty budgets. They started selling gold, physical gold, for the first time ever, and they sell it to China. So Russians understand they are in trouble and they start spending less. And recently I've told you that they withdraw a lot of money, trillions of rubles during year, but in December alone, it was more than like 400 billion rubles. Once again, that is a demonstration of panic. That is a demonstration of fear, because they know what happens on the streets of the Russian Federation. They see what happens in their regional budgets. They witness that the Kremlin cannot even pay this war salaries to the war criminals who joined the so-called special military operation. And now this closing businesses, closing trading centers, a lot of this textile shoes businesses are off, and even in Moscow, the capital of the Russian Federation, that has already turned into a war zone too, with closed airspaces, with cancelled flights. 5% of all cafés, restaurants, sushi bars, pizzerias closed just before Christmas, before New Year season. And you know that Russians do have problems with alcohol consumption quite often. They love eating food, that's a part of their culture. So the fact that they need to sacrifice these places means they literally cannot afford it. So do not watch what Putin says, because it's all propaganda of a 25-year-long dictator of the Russian Federation. Do not listen to what Peskov or Lavrov say, because these are all lies. Just look at what is happening inside their country. Businesses keep closing, cafes, restaurants, prices rising, no petrol, protests in more and more regions, like taxi driver protests, nationwide protests that was impossible to imagine once again at the beginning of the full-scale invasion. Right now, Russia is the weakest ever. That's why it is the time to defeat it, to demilitarize it, and to teach a lesson to other authoritarian regimes that are observing. And here in Ukraine, no one will agree on the appeasement of the Kremlin goblin. We want to see him in The Hague. We need justice served. And Christmas is the time to pray for that, to pray for justice. Do not let them trick you, trick us that justice is not important. No, justice must be served. So subscribe, share these videos to spread the truth. Also follow me on Anna Danilchuk channel with weekly updates. Thank you for all the coffees. Thank you for being patrons and sponsors of the channels. Thank you for this amazing community that we have. I'm very, very grateful that Ukraine has you, that I have you, and may this Christmas or this holiday season bring you good news, good people, people you can trust, and united we stand. Slava Ukraini!